James Izimoha. Welcome to Africa News, where we'll bring you the latest updates from across the African continent. Let's see your headlines. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa rebuffs US President Donald Trump's claim of white genocide. Tanzania unveils new economic strategy, target foreign investment. UN says it'll take billions of dollars to rebuild Sudan. Communities in Namibia affected by Germany's colonial-era genocide are calling for direct negotiations to reclaim ancestral land. They say the 2021 agreement between the two governments failed to consult the descendants of those who suffered. Critics argue that Germany are to return to the table and address what they call unresolved injustice.
Over a century after the genocide of Namibia's Herero and Nama people under German colonial rule, their descendants say true justice remains elusive. Germany has acknowledged the atrocity as genocide and pledged over €1 billion in development aid. But communities argue that key issues, especially land restitution, were left out. Herero leaders say talks excluded those directly impacted and violated a 2006 Namibian parliamentary resolution.
Germany must come to a table, discuss with us, negotiate with Hereros and Namas, and together we agree on what is appropriate to repair the damage it has caused to the Hereros and Namas, wherever they are at the moment. If nothing really works out, the only thing that we can lay our hands on is the land, because we know where that is. We know the names of the rivers, we know the names of the farms, the names of that our great-great-parents before colonialism have given to the parcels of land where the Germans are sitting today, because 70% of our land are in the hands of whites who have taken from us without buying for it.
For many descendants, the issue is not just historical, it's a daily struggle linked to landlessness and poverty.
I'm demanding reparation from the German government to what they did to my forefathers and some of my families. Yeah, that's why I actually decided, to start this Sokomon Genocide Museum, which is actually teaching students about the genocide of our people. Without land, they are nothing. So I think we must first focus on the land, that our ancestral land must be returned back,
But others in Namibia's German-speaking community say, while the deal is imperfect, it remains a step forward in a long-stalled process.
I think the joint declaration needs support, and it is definitely not the perfect model, because the amount of compensation offered does not amount to reparations. But there is at least an offer on the table, and in the absence of anything else, I think we need to support it.
The Namibian parliament has delayed ratifying the 2021 joint declaration as both governments review possible amendments. Meanwhile, land ownership remains deeply unequal. White Namibians make up 5% of the population, but control over 70% of the country's prime farmland.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has pushed back against US claims of so-called white genocide in his country. He was responding to a surprise presentation by Donald Trump during their Oval meeting last week. Ramaphosa says the notion is false and distorts the reality of crime in South Africa.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says he was caught off guard during a high-stakes Oval Office meeting last week when Donald Trump raised allegations of targeted killings against white South Africans. Trump presented videos and documents he claimed proved a so-called white genocide and land grabs, a narrative Ramaphosa flatly rejected. Speaking Tuesday at a development symposium in Cape Town, Ramaphosa recalled what he described as a surreal moment that briefly derailed his visit aimed at improving US-South Africa ties.
So when I came in, I saw the room going a bit dark. they darkened the room. And for a moment I wondered, what is this? It's happening to me again. Because at that moment, we were seated very nicely, and I was beginning to get into a groove of, interacting with this man. And I suddenly hear him say, no, dim the lights. And I must say, a number of people have said, this was an ambush, this was an ambush. And I was bemused. I was saying, what's happening?
The South African leader says he remains committed to restoring trust in US-South Africa relations despite political turbulence. He also confirmed that Trump has agreed to attend the G20 summit in Johannesburg this November.
After 2 years of war, Sudan's capital lies in ruins, with entire neighborhoods destroyed and basic services wiped out. Officials say rebuilding will cost hundreds of billions of dollars, money Sudan doesn't have. And as global aid declines, the country faces growing risks of disease and deeper collapse.
Shells of planes lie abandoned on Khartoum's airport runway. Its hospitals are gutted and the power grid is in ruins. Sudan's war between the army and the RSF has turned cities into ghost towns where water pumps are dry and streets are lined with unexploded ordnance. Oil output has halved and Sudan now relies on fuel imports it can barely afford. UN officials warn that even if peace comes, reconstruction could take decades and cost over $700 billion nationwide, yet foreign assistance is dwindling.
All commercial centres distributing electricity in Khartoum were destroyed, all of them. All the transformers have been destroyed, all of them are destroyed. Not even one is left. Some of the units were thrown in the sea. There could have been a room for maintenance. Out of 100 transformers, we could have gotten 3, 4 or 5 good ones, but all of them now are destroyed. That's why we are moving forward as if Khartoum was brand new. We will start supplying it with electricity as if it was new. This is how we are thinking.
UN officials say restoring basic services is essential as millions prepare to return to a devastated city.
We are estimating the damage to be in the hundreds of billions of dollars, probably around $300 to $300 billion. We are looking at extensive damage to infrastructure like power stations and water plants. All the facility, the health facility in Khartoum, have been damaged.
With most of Sudan's critical infrastructure damaged beyond repair and no full-scale recovery plan in place, experts warn that the return of millions could trigger secondary crises like disease outbreaks and further displacement. UN agencies are urging urgent support to prevent another humanitarian collapse.
Tanzania has unveiled a new economic strategy to transform itself into East Africa's top investment destination. The Mkumbi-2 blueprint outlines major reforms and infrastructure goals to support long-term growth. Officials say it could help position the country for trillion-dollar status by 2050.
Backed by 5.5% GDP growth and large-scale projects like the Julius Nyerere hydropower plant, Tanzania is now setting its sights on deeper investment reforms. Mkumbi-2, the government's new economic roadmap, aims to create a more competitive, investor-friendly environment. Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa says the strategy will unlock global markets for Tanzanian products and boost confidence among international businesses.
This plan will improve our business environment and attract foreign companies to come invest in Tanzania. This will also open up markets for products produced in the country, making Tanzania an attractive place to do business for the world.
Private sector leaders are calling for rapid implementation and say real economic transformation will require more than just policy declarations.
So to me, I think we are at that time of business unusual, moving these pieces of information from papers, policies and documents to actually getting more mechanic and implementing them so that we can attain that number. Are we going to be able to achieve that, the $1 trillion economy, by 2050, according to Vision 2050? Yes, we are capable of doing that, but we need to move from business as usual to business unusual.
Mkumbi too forms part of Tanzania's broader Vision 2050 strategy to reach a $1 trillion economy. But experts say sustained progress will depend on turning reforms into tangible results and making them work for all sectors of society.
A former Beninese street performer is reinventing the circus arts in West Africa. Prime Nzenze has launched Circle Benin and its first festival to spotlight homegrown talent and formal training. But despite growing interest, his team still faces obstacles to wider recognition.
In Cotonou, the Circle Benin Circus School and its new Cirque en Fusion Festival are giving fresh visibility to West Africa's rich but overlooked traditions of street performance. Founder Prime Nzenze, once an acrobat on the streets of Benin, trained in France and toured internationally. He says the school answers a growing need to professionalize the region's art forms, combining cultural heritage with international standards of safety, pedagogy, and discipline.
Circus arts in Benin and the sub-region were considered street arts, and it was much more traditional, demonstrative circus that was practiced. So there was a need to establish a school, a training center that respects the pedagogical rules linked to circus arts, that respects the relationship we have with the human body and with equipment, that respects the rules and codes linked to contemporary circus arts. So, to meet this need, I was able to establish this school.
For some festival goers, the daring routines and stunts left a lasting impression.
I saw one man, three men up high. My heart jumped every time I saw them performing. And honestly, you need courage, you need substance to do that, you need physical strength. And I think they have it all. And I was really impressed by most of it. There were also cyclists, jugglers, there was a bit of everything, but they impressed me the most.
While Circo Benin's launch marks a turning point for circus arts in the region, organizers say long-term recognition will depend on sustained partnerships, professional exchanges, and changing how the public views this once marginalized craft.
That's all we have today on Africa News. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to A News.